This is Cross Culture Podcast with Belle Tindall and Lauren Windle,
where we talk pop culture and current affairs from a Christian perspective. Cross Culture is back, and it's episode 4, which means, and it's so wild how quickly we move through. This is kind of the halfway point of this series.
What?
I know, when we finish recording this, that's halfway from this, because we've got 8 episodes planned.
So, like, today's Wednesday. If our season was a week, we're on hump day.
And you know what? It is not hump day, though. We're going to start off with some really happy stuff because, Belle, you got engaged.
I got engaged. How weird.
Fiance. It's so... You're like a proper grown-up.
This is exactly... So my fiance, his name is Sam, and this is what Sam said. So we got engaged on Saturday, and then we were driving to church on Sunday, and I was like, are you okay? He was like, what? He was like, yeah, I'm really happy, but I feel a bit too much like a grown-up. Which is silly because that doesn't make you a grown-up. But all of a sudden he was on Rightmove, like...
Yeah, you'll be comparing mortgage plans soon.
It's exactly that. Yeah, he was like looking at semi-detached houses. I'm like, Sam, I think it's okay. I think you can calm down. I think we're fine.
Well, but also I just like to have a little browse of Rightmove anyway. Just to see what's out there, see if any neighbours are selling up soon, you know, those kinds of things.
That's my favourite thing, is when you get to sneak in a neighbour's house.
To see photographs of the house next to mine, there's a upstairs flat, and I screen grabbed some of those pictures, so I was like, that's a lovely layout for that room. Yeah,
it's what they've done, like with your house. Yeah, you're like, right, okay, let's come here.
It's just the mirror image of my home.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. Tell us how it all happened. We want to hear the official engagements, because how long have you guys been together? A year and a half?
Yeah, around there, yeah. Quite a little while. So it was both a big surprise and not a big surprise. I mean, as Christians, I don't think... I might be wrong. Listen, listeners.
No one's caught off guard by an engagement, are they?
This is not when you're Christians, because you've got to talk about, like, you know, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but should I be looking for a house to rent next year? You know?
My tenancy agreement's coming up. Can we talk practically? When should I get a manicure? Just give me 2 nods.
Yeah, blink twice if I should get a manicure tomorrow. I knew it was on the horizon, but we had been speaking about it in very practical, utilitarian terms. And so I think, and also Sam, love you to bits, but he is quite a practical, like his romance is like getting my tires changed, or do you know what I mean?
That ticks my boxes.
Yeah, it will serve me really well in life.
My air pressure.
Yeah.
Stop flirting with me.
Yeah, exactly. So that means that I had kind of like told myself, like, it'll probably be quite low key and that's fine. And, you know, I'd prepared myself for not having this big elaborate thing. But I was so wrong. I had a big elaborate thing.
What kind of big elaborate thing?
So it was a whole day. So I'll condense this into like a minute. But he basically sent me, we both live in Bristol, and he sent me like around the city on a treasure hunt. And there were clues, and I would just turn up somewhere and there would be a rose in a bottle with a clue attached to it to take me to the next place.
Oh, no. Oh, he's setting the standards so high here. That is amazing.
So and my family were involved. Like, my sister was in the first one. My brother was at the second clue. And
as soon as you got the first clue, though, you were like, you know how this is going to end. You love it, though. You don't want to rush it.
I love it. No, exactly. It was so good. And also it was so great. And then what was really cool is I did feel a bit like a main character, because people, as I was collecting these roses, like I was having to walk around Bristol with a bouquet of roses. And then people were noticing, like, she's got a flower that's like the one in the bottle over there. And I could see people like nudge each other, like, it's here. Because they must have seen Sam put it down.
If you can't be the main character of your proposal story, then something's wrong there. I think embrace I would have skipped up to those roses and flounced my dress.
A big flouncy dress. I did wear quite a flouncy dress, actually. Yeah. It was so good. And then one of them was like at a pub that we love, and I saw the rose was behind the bar. And then the barmaid was like, you have 3 drinks behind the bar if you're who I think you are. And I was like, oh, wow. So it was very nice. And then at the last stop, obviously, Sam was there, ready to propose. And then the final surprise of the day was we came home because we were going to get changed and go out for a meal. And my parents were here. And it was all
so nice.
Lovely.
I can imagine you set up this whole treasure hunt thing and you're waiting at the final stop. That must be a pretty agonizing, like heart pounding wait. for like you to, yeah.
I know.
I mean, this whole thing around the city must have taken you a good few hours.
Yeah, it
And
took a
he's
good few
there like
hours.
trying to hope he had you on Find My Friends so he could
I
sort of
know.
see as you
See
were
how we
moving
were doing.
around.
I know, and that's the thing. And so much could have gone wrong. Like I could have not got the clues. People could
Yeah.
have stolen these
Yeah, that's
flowers.
true.
That
Yeah,
could
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
And there was this one point. So one of them was in this park. And so he must have set it up. And then little did he know, but a massive student Diwali party happened. And so I had to walk through this Diwali party where they were chucking the coloured powder.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
and I had to get up on the stage with the DJ and be like, "Excuse me, I think I'm being proposed to. Like, have you seen a rose anywhere?" And this DJ looked at me and was like, "No, you're not being proposed to. It's Diwali." And I was like, "No, I know you're
That's
not here for
separate.
me." Yeah. He looked at me like, "You stupid white girl. Do you think everything is about you?" And I was like, "No, I know you're
It's
not
like
here for me."
simultaneously to your
Yeah,
party,
like
there's
two
another
things are
thing going
happening.
on. Can you help me find a rose?
Yeah, so they were like little funny things throughout the day, and so much could have gone
So
wrong,
good.
and amazingly it didn't.
I
And
love that.
and
That's
now, yeah, and now we're looking at
good.
semi-detached houses because that's the way life
On
goes.
right move. Yeah, big time. That's
Yeah.
oh, so exciting. My gosh,
Ah, thanks.
congratulations. I
Thank
haven't even met Sam.
you.
Maybe we need to do a bonus episode where Sam comes on and gives us our thoughts on Married at First Sight Australia.
I don't know how fun that would be, but it's weird.
He could bring some topics that he thinks are important from the week in pop culture. Is
I mean, he's a big The Rest is History fan.
we could do more
He's
Tom Holland. We could
we
afford to have a bit more Tom Holland
We
on
could
here,
actually.
you
This
know?
is the other thing is so all of these places where he sent me around the city were like places we'd been on dates, but they
Mm.
also, according to him, were places where the English Civil War took place. This is what I mean.
Oh,
I'm not sure we are
romance on
his
so
people.
many
So many levels.
levels.
So when he tells the story, I've literally seen him tell someone else the story, and he says, "Well, I took her on a Civil War tour around the city, and then I proposed where the
So special.
massacre of so and so happened." I'm like, "Oh, Sam, you're
Wow.
ruining it. You did so well, and you're ruining it by mentioning the Civil War too much."
Yeah, no one wants the Civil
No
War
one wants it.
in their proposal story. And that's
No,
just for any men who may be proposing in the future.
just
Just
leave it
don't
out.
involve the Civil War, probably.
Leave it out. I didn't even know England had a civil war. I thought that was an
Oh
America
no.
only event.
Oh gosh, did England had loads? The War of the Roses was a civil war. Must have had loads.
Sure. No,
I
you're
didn't
right.
I don't think I could pinpoint the exact moment
Like
Bristol
the
was
one.
embroiled in
Who
civil
can?
war.
Who
Yeah.
can?
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
probably Sam from the sounds
probably.
of it.
Well, I tell you what, we'll get him on for a Civil War special.
It's about time we had a
Yeah,
Civil
it
War
is.
special.
Yeah, it really is.
On to equally happy things, also very happy things.
The happy trend.
Obviously, yeah, last week was it International Day of Happiness on
It
Thursday?
was. I didn't know that
Really good.
existed, but it did existed, and I hope everyone had a very happy Thursday.
I feel generally pretty happy at the moment, so
Yeah,
that's
I'm
nice.
doing all right.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, great. But there was some research that came out in association with that day that said that Finland was the happiest country in the world.
Well, hey, go Finland for the
Good for
eighth year
Finland.
running.
Eighth year run. I don't know why, but I had it in my head it was Costa Rica.
That is in there. That's in the top 10. But have a guess at where the UK sits.
So there are what, 198 countries. I guess the UK would be 32nd.
Do you know what, Lauren? That's so funny because it's 23rd. So you had the answer, but in reverse.
So also called not having the answer.
Yeah, I just wanted to give it to you though. Right. So the
That's
UK
so
is
good. Okay, 23rd. That's
23rd.
not bad.
It's
That's
not
not
bad.
bad.
It's not great. Do you want the top 10?
Well, yeah, everyone wants the top 10, but given
Everyone
that we're
wants the top
talking
10.
about 198 countries,
Yeah, 23 is not too bad.
23rd's really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got the top 10 here, right? See if you can guess another four that are in the top 10. Obviously, Finland's top.
I tend to think all of those Scandinavian countries are pretty up there. So I'm
Just,
going Norway, Switzerland, Denmark.
do you mean Sweden or do you mean Switzerland?
Should I mean Sweden?
Well, okay, we're not considering Switzerland a Scandi country, are we?
I don't know, are we?
More Germanic than that, I would have thought.
Yeah, you're right.
If we're doing Scandi countries, to my mind, there's 5.
Go on.
Finland, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, and Denmark.
Yeah. How many of those are hit in the top 10?
Yeah, all 5.
Are they?
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't know when this data was done, but Israel's number 8, and that seems pretty off-key to me.
Interesting.
We should maybe check our sources and check that they have been updated in the last year, because to have Israel nestled in between Norway and Luxembourg doesn't feel right. Also, Mexico's number 10, and I wouldn't have had Mexico right up there.
Well, Mexico's actually a new hitter at number 10, I think. It's its first year in the top 10. Well done, Mexico.
Oh, congrats, Mexico. Good for you.
So there are certain things, they've noticed some trends because they ask people basically their quality of life in these countries and then kind of make judgments on it. So there are a few things that they see as being kind of indicators of a good life and therefore a happy country. Sharing meals is a biggie.
That's nice.
I know. Close family bonds and living geographically close to your family is a biggie.
Okay, that's
nice. Household size. So countries that have around 4 to 5 people living together in a household are happier countries, which is interesting.
Okay,
Very
that's
interesting.
nice.
And then there's also the wallet experiment. So apparently we are basically twice as likely to return a wallet as we assume we are. And the country...
Sorry, what word are you saying?
Wallet.
As in like a purse, but for a man?
Yeah.
Wallet. Well, I don't know. I think we're both just a little bit too regional for that word. Wallet. It's your wallet.
Purse. A man's purse.
A man's...
Shall I just go for purse? Let's just go for purse. Let's just go on neutral ground. So we apparently, according to a study, are twice as likely to return lost purses. And basically, the countries that think that's the case are the happier ones. So people are much happier living where they think people care about each other. Whereas the countries where it was like, no, I don't think anyone would return my purse if it was left, are lower down the scale.
Well, I think all of those are really nice things. I would say it's a BBC article that we're getting this from, and I've just checked the date on it, and it is 2025, March 2025. So I guess the metrics don't stretch to... war, currently at war, which genocide does seem like a bit of a flaw in the study. But if we're just basing it on size of household and how likely is your neighbour to return your purse, then great.
Totally.
Good. I'm pleased that people in these countries have found such good community.
Congratulations all, particularly Finland.
And let's just quickly on Finland, right? Because we're certain Finland exists, right? Just a little... a little throwback to the old conspiracy theory episode of season 1, because I still haven't met a Finnish person. I know plenty of Swedish people, loads of Norwegians. Finland, I'm sorry, I don't, and I don't know anyone who's been on holiday to Finland either.
I don't know anyone who's been to Finland. This is so creepy and so accurate. Hidden in plain sight.
I tell you what, if we get some sponsorship, we're going to spend that money on recording an episode on tour in Finland. And if we get off the plane and it's just a void that we fall into, then everyone will know, and that'll be it. It'll be proven once and for all.
Because we'll never be seen again.
If we're never seen again, then at least everyone knows the truth about Finland.
That's a mission I'm willing to die for.
Just really bring this stuff to light. We're here for the important things.
We absolutely are. Let's call that the happy half of the episode, shall we?
Yeah, it's about to get not very happy.
Because we could not do an episode on what is popular in culture this week and not spend a good old chunk of it talking about adolescence.
Oh my goodness, we could not.
We could not. I am 3 episodes in. I believe there's 4.
Oh, you've not finished it?
I've not finished it.
Oh, wild. Okay.
I'm 3 episodes in, 1 to go, I think, because there's 4, right? But for anyone who this is not something that's been on your radar, so Adolescence is a Netflix show created and starring Stephen Graham. Do your best Stephen Graham impression, Lauren.
And I saw kids.
That was way better than I was expecting. Well done. Really good. So it is 4-hour-long episodes. The storyline, and I'm really not spoiling anything because this is the premise of the show, is a young 13-year-old boy has killed a 14-year-old girl A
Yeah.
girl in his year,
Yeah.
basically.
It's not a who done it, it's a why did he do it?
It's a wide on it. Yeah, indeed. And
Why?
it's wide on it. And it's caught attention for different reasons. Like, so the young boy who plays Jamie, who's the guy at the heart of this, the child at the heart of this, he was a novice actor, which is pretty impressive because he's incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah, really good. Also, every episode is one continuous shot, and that has effects on like your experience of watching it that you wouldn't. It really matters. But also, I think in many ways, Adolescence was made to kind of panic us into action, and it has. It has fanned a few terrifying conversations into flames, and rightly so. And while there are other, well, I think actually we both work in the media world, Lauren. And so I always find it, we work in the realm of writing and podcasts and all of this stuff. So I just always find it interesting when something like lands and then everyone wants to talk about it immediately. Everyone is
mushroomed,
absolutely, and that's exactly what has happened. And you almost can't predict what will do that to a culture, but all of a sudden, like everyone's eyes are zoomed in on this one thing, and I think Adolescence has really done that. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's phenomenal. It's the way that it is filmed in one continuous shot means that not only are there big moments of action, but there's also the mundanity of life in there. And obviously, it's at very high pressure moments that they're following people around. But you see things that almost, if it was in a sort of classically edited film or show, would be kind of inconsequential, but they're not, because they paint a whole picture of what life is like for those individuals. And particularly in the fourth episode, which you haven't watched yet, which is set in the family home of the boy. And you just see them sort of going about their day. And it really means that you get insight into those characters, which is vital when it comes to recognizing their reactions to the big moments.
Yeah.
So I think it's absolutely masterful. Cinematically, it's worth watching just for those kinds of things. And the kid, this 13-year-old boy, Jamie, the mind boggles that he hasn't done that before. Particularly the third episode is just him in conversation with another person. And that is just it is the fullness of his character portrayed in that 1 hour. All the things that that if you knew him real life, you'd really like about him. All the sympathy you might feel towards him, but also fear and hatred. And he invites you to feel all of those things at the same time towards one person. And that is, I mean, it's just an exceptional skill. The topic that it hits on, which is the manosphere and incels and that sort of community and the damage of that community, is something that we as society have been circling around for a while. And there have been some mass shootings, mass murders and killings and things like that, motivated by that sort of incel ideology in the past. But they've often been perpetrated by white men, which has meant they haven't been labeled as terrorism. And there's been a real feeling that this is a coordinated collection of people that
Who are
should be
being
categorized.
mobilized.
Yeah, who are being, and they should be categorized in the same way as a sort of terrorist cell would, particularly when they're being incited into violence, right?
Absolutely.
If this is something that you are newly aware of and you want more information, I cannot recommend highly enough Laura Bates's Men Who Hate Women. And she set up the Everyday Sexism Project, and she writes incredibly well on issues that affect women and girls. And she goes into schools to talk about incel culture and manosphere and stuff like that. And it is, even her talking about the experience of going into schools, she insists that people sit boy, girl, because when the boys are collected together, teenage boys, they are disrespectful towards her. They do not listen properly, they push back. And her talking about some of the questions that boys will bring her that are just parroted back from people like Andrew Tate and other very sort of aggressively manosphere type people. She says that she can just see it a mile off. So I'd really recommend that. If you want it from a Christian perspective, I hate to do this, but I write about incel ideology in Notes on Feminism as well.
Yeah, you do. Can you tell us a little bit? Because I have heard this word incel bandied around.
Yeah.
There's this thing that Jordan Peterson's King of the Incels. So this
And
line,
he really, Jordan Peterson has been associated with it, but he himself has desperately tried to distance himself from it. He says he is not aligned with incel ideology,
yeah,
but some of his ideas are very consistent with the things that mobilize incels.
totally.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting. So I've kind of known this phrase, but it was actually only watching Adolescence that I learnt that it was shorthand for
Voluntary
involuntarily
celibate.
celibate.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more? Because it's this idea, isn't it, that's kind of rooted in the fact that these men consider themselves to be in some way undesired by women.
Yeah,
Is that right?
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
give us a little 3-minute breakdown of what incel culture
Yeah.
is.
So back in the day, a woman started a blog and she coined the term incel because she was almost Bridget Jones style. It was when Bridget Jones was big,
Right.
she was writing about her dating life and how she was like not getting any and she was
Mm,
involuntarily celibate. She didn't want to be celibate, but she was celibate and she was an incel. This term then caught traction with a very different audience. And I think people started commenting on her blog saying, I'm an involuntary celibate as well. And then these men found a community through the comment section, took it away to places like Reddit and other forums where they collected. And now there are some really big platforms where people who identify as an incel can collect themselves. And it stopped. And this woman is horrified that her experiences at that time, which was just supposed to be sort of kind of encouraging and fun,
yeah.
have now sort of, I'm sure that these people will have found each other in another way anyway, but have sparked this movement of people. And effectively, the feeling is men are entitled to sex. And that is, I don't know if they would say those words, but that is the foundation of it. Men are entitled to sex, but women only want to have sex with what these men would term a Chad. And that is the most attractive upper percentile. And I think in
Mm,
Laura Bates's book, she talks about the top 10%, but in Adolescence, they talk about
yeah.
the 80-20 rule. So
Yeah.
80% of women are only interested in entertaining sexual advances from the top 20% of men, which leaves 80% of men completely involuntarily celibate, unable to catch the attention of a woman who is their equal in looks and things like that, because the top 80% are only interested in the top 20%. But it means that there is a disproportionate sexual success for the most
Mm,
sexually successful men. And that is based solely on looks. That is
yeah. Okay.
so, like, if you're in the top 20% looks wise, then you're stealing all the women. So they hate the incel community, hate the Chads, but they also hate the women because they are depriving them of something that they feel
Mm,
entitled to.
yeah.
And some of the messages that are on these groups, I printed some in the book, and Laura Bates prints loads because she joins some of these forums posing as a man and things like that just to see what's being said. But the idea that like you can take sex from
Mm,
people is very much encouraged.
okay.
And there are even places where they will tell you if you have forced yourself on someone, here's the text messages to send the next day to coerce them into sending something reasonably pleasant back, like out of politeness, so that if you were ever arrested, you could show those text messages and you can go, look, obviously it was consensual. Look, she's being nice to me. And they've
Yeah.
got template text messages you can send afterwards. So it's facilitating rapists and
And
it's
it
really spurring people on, firing them up, telling them that they're being ignored by people who should be paying them attention and that it's okay to take action and be angry about that.
Yeah, and it's kind of because what's really interesting, particularly in that third episode, which is the last episode I've seen, is that there's also a huge, without giving too much away, you really should watch it. But I don't think any of this is spoilers because it's not a spoiler. It's not a show you can spoil.
Mm,
But there's this huge element of hatred that Jamie has this
yeah.
huge hatred of himself.
Yeah.
He has this hatred of the girl he's killed, but that's because he has a deep, deep hatred of self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all to do with her not wanting him, but it's to do with so much. And this is
Yeah.
what's great about Adolescence is it touches upon so much. It touches upon the school system, the education system at the moment. It touches upon social media
Yeah.
massively. There's all
Mm,
of this coding that goes on that
mm,
I had no idea exists.
mm,
But I
yeah.
think is totally real. this kind of coding through emojis where
Yeah.
kids are like speaking to each other and they're saying 1,000 different things just through emojis, and there's all of that, and there's male rage, like this
Yeah.
idea that like, and I don't know, I think it's so interesting, and this very specific like incel stuff which is brought up again and again is like the perfect, like almost like linchpin that can be pulled out of this whole idea that society is against young men at the moment. Like which is the line that's being drawn. Again, Jordan Peterson doesn't want anything to do with this incel behavior specifically, but he will say again and again and again that men are being pushed onto the margins, that men are being disenfranchised. And we have some amazing women saying that as well. I think Caitlin Moran, who's a real feminist writer, wrote a book about it too. And so it's like this kind of horrible, violent victimhood, which is incel culture. It's like we are such fertile ground for it at the moment, because everyone's talking about there's a lack of really good male role models at the moment. Like, where else are these men supposed to go? There's this author, I wish I could remember his name, I'll put it in the show notes, who writes about this, and he's like, working class men and women, young working class men and women are being pitted against each other. And he was like, that's such a shame, because they're actually facing a common enemy, which is holding them both back, which is like this like elitist, technocratic, upper class. We are going to make life hard for you, and yet we're being pitted against each other. So just,
I don't know who said this, but like in a Christian sense, the enemy thrives when we're pitted against each other, right? And this is just another way to introduce a perception of injustice to somebody's life that can get that chip on their shoulder, start really playing with their mind, start making them feel hard done by, and then start actually infesting their character and their responses, and it'll infect their connections with people and their relationships, their friendships, and it will just have such a terrible effect on their ongoing life, One thing I thought was really interesting, and I remember, so there's a Channel 4 documentary, The Secret Life of Incels. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm going to put that in the show notes as well, which was really well done, a few years old, but worth watching. And I noticed that Channel 4 have started re-promoting it since Adolescence got really popular. So that's great work, Channel 4. But definitely worth a watch. And one of the things I think in that the presenter remarked was like, the men he was meeting, a lot of them had masks on because it was a TV show and they didn't want to be revealed, their identity to be revealed. But he saw them behind their masks, even if we didn't. He was like, I don't think they're ugly. And I think Jamie's casting is great, because that's a good looking lad, right? He may not be yet the fittest, beefiest in school. There'd be some kids who are like, the one all the girls fancy, right? And he may not be that yet. But just looking at him, he's going to be a like really quite attractive guy, right? For sure. And that's almost like what shocked me about some of the people involved in this. You're like, do you have to be top 20% or 10%? Because actually, like, you look better looking than some of the men I've dated. I don't see why women wouldn't date you. If anything, what's the only thing that would put me off is that you're angry and aggressive and horrible. But if you had just been kind to people and invested in friendships and stuff like that, there's no way women wouldn't want to date you. There's nothing wrong with the way you look.
Well, it's really funny, isn't it? Because it's not true. I think, this book, I mentioned it last week, Love in Excel, and you'll know this more than anyone, Lauren, because you speak and write on this so much. We are just in a dating crisis in general. It's like this narrative, like this victim narrative that is based in a lie. You're so right, Lauren, a really dangerous lie. And as Christians, we would say that this is primarily spiritual. As most things are, this is a spiritual thing. And you could take it all the way back to Genesis and be like, this is that like, you'll want to rule over your husband, but your husband will rule over. Like, this fracture in the relationship between the sexes is this is what this is ultimately. But it's a total lie, because dating is odd for everyone at the moment. Like, we're doing it on TV shows and through apps and on social media. It's like we're trying to catch up with the new way that dating happens, and we're all struggling. So this idea that it's a targeted problem for these men is a lie that is
massively
crazily dangerous.
You're not unattractive. The problem is that we're rubbish at forging authentic connection at the moment, in
every kind of way.
Exactly Although they did, in the Channel 4 documentary, present a female incel. And I couldn't help but think, like, surely we've solved our problem right there. Do you know what I mean? Just introduce those two communities, bish bash bosh,
Bob's your uncle.
solution. But they didn't
Yeah,
suggest that on the show. So I guess for one reason or another, they've decided that's probably not a goer.
that's yeah,
But definitely worth understanding more about. I think it is a
totally.
crisis of our time. Anyone who works in youth work will definitely already be aware of it. But the
Yeah.
more we can have these good, healthy conversations
Mm.
with young people,
Yeah, there's
the
some
better.
amazing. So Youthscape have just released an episode of their podcast with the amazing Rachel Gardner on this. I
Mm.
know that Ben Lindsay, who specifically works with knife crime, with Power the
His
Fight.
youth book came out this week, actually, talking about race in the
Yeah,
context of,
there you go.
young people last week. That
It's
came out, and
so
that's
good.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just, because in a way, like church youth workers, like we're mobilized, we're ready for this sort of thing. And because it can be quite a depressing watch because they have made it to panic you, and rightly
Mm.
so.
Mm.
But seeing like people like Rachel Gardner, who was talking about some of the guys in her youth group, our amazing friend Emma just posted a photo of like the youth group that she puts on and said, if you're really freaking out about this, we're looking for male volunteers because I run a
Oh,
youth group every week. Just amazing things happening. And I was like, do you know what? The church works. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there are people out there fighting the good fight. And I can't
Yeah.
imagine watching something like Adolescence and not having that slant to it as well, of like people like, we'll go to war on this.
Yeah. 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 That's
Totally.
true. I think that people really recognize that this is something that needs to be tackled, like with everything we've got,
Yeah,
like big guns time. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. But it's a good watch. And I think it has done what it set out to do.
Yeah.
Got us all yapping about it, isn't it?
I mean, absolutely. So the only other thing that I've been watching recently,
Hmm.
as soon as we started this podcast, I'd say three people in quick succession said to me, "Are you going to talk about the secret lives of Mormon wives?" And I was like, what's the what now?"
Yeah, sorry. Who? What?
And they were like, "But it's a religious, there's a religious element to the podcast and it's pop culture. It's the perfect mix." And I was like, "Do
Ticks
you
all
know
your
what?
boxes.
Do you know what? I'm going to check it out for season 2. Everyone
Hmm.
keeps going on about it. Let's see what these Mormon wives are up to." And I thought also quite interesting to learn a bit more about Mormon. It's because it's not Mormon is not Christian, right? It's
Mm.
sufficiently different, but they do follow Jesus. And
Yep.
I've seen Book of Mormon, which I just cannot in all faith recommend on a Christian podcast because it is just the most horrendously offensive thing. Just
Is it?
like offensive across the board, offensive to Christians, offensive to people of color, offensive to anyone who is from Africa, offensive to anyone who's
Mm.
gay. It's literally like they've been so indiscriminate about who they offend that it's almost not discrimination.
Yeah, because yeah, sure.
So it's written
Interesting.
by the people who wrote South Park, and it is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah,
There are parts that are funny, but it is like it's
mostly
like
grim.
grim. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I saw that and that gave me like a little flavor, like a satire-based flavor
Mm.
of Mormon life. And I thought, actually, do you know what? Interesting to learn a little bit more about the culture. And did that show do that for me? No, no, it didn't. These are just women who auditioned for Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, did not get it on, so have done their own version. And I'd say it is, if Real Housewives is Towie, this is
Mm.
like X on the beach. It's like two kicks down in terms of trash TV, I'd
Okay.
say.
Where are you watching this?
So, good question. Disney Plus seems to be really pushing out the extreme Mormon content at the moment, and this is
Okay.
a Disney Pluser.
It's found a niche and it's going with it.
And it seems to be going somewhere. The
Great.
whole series kicks off because there's a selection of these mums who established Mum Talk, Mom,
Mom
Talk.
talk.
Yeah, that's exactly how they say it. Where they've been
Okay.
doing these dances on TikTok, they've got millions of followers, they get these brand deals, and they're all Mormon mums, and they're all very beautiful, and they're all quite young because everyone marries very young and then has kids very quickly
Mm.
in their sort of culture and in their community. But there were rumors that one of them had cheated and slept with another person's husband. Then she goes online and does like a TikTok live and says, "Yeah, it's true that I did that, but it wasn't cheating because we all swing. That's what we do." Obviously, that absolutely blows up
Oh,
the
she knew
Mormon.
what she was doing.
She knew what she was doing.
Come on.
The Mormon community do not support that because they've got quite a modest outlook on things.
Sure.
So they struggled with that idea. And then also it drew very negative attention towards the Mormon church and towards those women. And that's when Disney Plus was like, we'll swoop in and make a show.
This has us written all over it.
Yeah. So you pick up with them sort of like disagreeing about whether or not she should have said that publicly and the fallout that that had for them and their families. They've all got kids, as well. So
Wow.
all of
Okay.
that. Would I recommend it? No, I wouldn't.
No? Do you want to give it a little rating out of 10?
Out of 10, 3. It's
Oh,
like, yeah, I've
low.
gotten through 3 episodes and I feel like I've experienced enough to be
Yeah.
able to say that. So
A point per episode. That's
people wanted to know what the Christian take was on it. I don't think it's a Christian show. I don't think it's even Christian adjacent. I think it's less Christian than The Real Housewives. And also, even if you just want insight into the life of a Mormon person, I don't think it's very representative either, from what I can tell.
It's not going to give you that either.
Yeah. Continuing on my Mormon-core journey, though,
Yeah.
there is another documentary on, you guessed it, Disney Plus,
Ooh.
that has just come out, and the Guardian's write-up of it was so like, this will blow your mind. This is totally shocking. You will not believe the twists and turns in this. So I was like, yeah, all right, that feels like the sort of thing that I want to spend my time watching. And I've now watched it. It's called Devil in the Family. And it is shocking, and there are loads of twists and turns. Again, so what I didn't realize, and I explain a bit more about this, is the Mormon community really promotes this idea of perfection because anything that is unclean or whatever can't get to heaven. And the more perfect you are, the closer to heaven. That's the sort of vibes.
Yeah.
So it means, like, particularly the sort of housewives and things like that, they really try and put forward a picture of a perfect family. And one woman, Ruby Frankie is her name, and she's been in the press a lot over the last sort of 4 or 5 years. She set up a YouTube documenting her life with her 6 kids and her husband, and just slowly things got more and more extreme in the way that she was disciplining her children. She took away her oldest son's bedroom for 7 months and
Wow.
refused
Where
to
did
give
he
it back
sleep?
on a beanbag in the basement. But she saw that as totally legitimate
Yeah.
disciplinary
And was
method.
posting this and like using it as a advice
Yeah.
method.
Yeah, so she mentioned it on a YouTube, and that was the first sort of fall that she had because people started commenting saying how abusive it was.
Wow.
And then she sort of went right into the sort of homeschooling, keeping your kids on track. And eventually, basically, she decided that bad behavior in her kids was a symptom of demonic possession. She didn't feed them because she didn't want to feed demons. She didn't, all of this. So obviously, massively complicated mental health things. She got involved with a woman who was effectively a cult leader telling her how to do these things. And it just gets increasingly extreme. And the oldest daughter in the family has a book that came out in the last few months. It was an instant, like, #1 bestseller, which should give more of her perspective. Interestingly, she will not refer to her parents as mum and dad anymore and only uses their first names because she's cut off contact, certainly with her mum. I'm not sure. Her dad was less involved.
This sounds right up Louis through street.
It
Where is he in
is.
this?
Yeah.
Come on, Louis.
I'm surprised that he didn't poke his little head up at some point, but it's really quite extreme. Again, I'd say not, Disney Plus is not giving us any sort of demonstration of the everyday life of somebody in a Mormon community, but very much the extremes. And this is another extreme. But if you are that person who likes those like true crime, absolutely captivating documentaries, then I think that this is
With a
probably,
sprinkling of Mormonism on top, then this is
just
your
a
thing.
little bit of Mormon-core, then I think that you'll like this one.
Ooh, and if after all of that heaviness, you're feeling a bit blue, just take after the finish, have dinner with your friends, think about the kindness of people returning, your peers. We'll just move to Finland, see if it exists, if things get really bad.
Yeah, look, if you have been to Finland, like, do tell us.
Please.
podcrossculture@gmail.com.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your experiences of this supposed country.
Oh, why, yes, we would. Yes, we would. To save us an airfare of going to see if it does truly exist.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what a week we have had.
Oh, I feel like I've just lived it all over again in the last 35 minutes. My goodness.
There's been highs, there's been lows, there's been mountains, there's been valleys, and everything in between.
Absolutely beautiful roller coaster.
A beautiful roller coaster. Right, we should end it there.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see what peaks and troughs we have to share next week. My gosh.
Plenty, I hope.
Plenty. So we will see you next week for episode 5.
I know. How has this happened?
How?
Our baby's growing old so fast.
It is. Episode 5 of Cross Culture. Have a great week, friends.
Bye, guys.